Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to vacuum sealing, you've come to the right place. I've been using vacuum sealers to store food for over 8 years now, so today I've come up with 11 essential beginner tips to help you start your vacuum sealing food journey. So let's jump straight into it. Now my first tip is probably my most important. Although it might seem basic, labeling your vacuum bags is a must. It's so easy to forget what's inside, especially with frozen items. Labeling helps if you vacuum seal as much as me to determine how long it has been in your freezer and what you should prioritize using first. I typically include the date, what's inside, and if it's meat that I've cut up, I also include the style of the cut, like cubed or sliced, depending on how I've prepared it. Another tip I have for labeling is that I recommend labeling your bags prior to filling and sealing, as it gives you a nice flat surface to write on. This is much easier than trying to do so once it's sealed. I also aim to do it in the top above the seal. That way I have consistency and know where to look every time. Okay, my second tip is blanching foods before sealing them. For some vegetables, such as broccoli, blanching is a must. This involves quickly boiling them, then plunging them into an ice bath to stop the cooking process. You then dry it thoroughly before vacuum sealing. This helps preserve the color, texture, and nutrients, making them freezer ready for future meals. I've noticed if you don't do this with broccoli, you tend to get a mushy product and it's just not worth sealing. I've also made a video on this entire process for blanching and vacuum sealing broccoli, so make sure to check that one out if you're after more information. I'll put it in the comments below. My next tip is making sure you leave enough space at the top of the bag. Another mistake I commonly see beginners make when vacuum sealing is not leaving sufficient space in the vacuum bags they are looking to seal. To help ensure the best seal possible, you'll want to always leave a few inches of space at the top of the bag. This makes sealing easier and allows the machine to draw air from the bag more efficiently. This is specifically tailored towards desktop vacuum sealers and doesn't matter as much if you are using a handheld device. If you haven't bought a vacuum sealer yet or considering another one, I've made a video comparing desktop and handheld vacuum sealers to help choose what's right for you and your sealing purposes. My fourth tip, test the seal. Every seal you should closely inspect the bag to ensure it's airtight and it has created a nice clean seal. If you spot any issues or air leaking, you'll have the ability to reseal the bag immediately to remedy the issue. This helps ensure food is stored correctly. Tip 5. Flash freezing moist and delicate foods. If you're sealing foods like berries, fish or cheese, flash freezing them first helps stop them from mushing. You'll want to spread the items out on a baking sheet and freeze them until they're solid. This typically takes about 2 hours if you're using a conventional at-home freezer. Once frozen, you'll want to transfer them into your vacuum sealing bags and then vacuum seal them as normal. This helps prevent them from being squished during the sealing process and helps keep their shape. I've made a video going in depth how to do this for strawberries. I'll put it in the comments below as well. Next tip is when you're sealing meats, you can pre-seal cut meats with a spice or marinade. This helps speed up the cooking process and is a great idea if you take vacuum sealed food camping. So you'll want to cut up the meat and then seal it with a dry rub, any spice mix you got, or marinade with your meats in the vacuum bag, and this makes for a convenient meal prep. When you're ready to cook, just add them directly to your food after thawing. Seventh tip is to create custom sized bags. Now, typically you can get pre-made bags from your local retailers or online. Creating custom sized bags does not only save you money, but can minimize the amount of waste and ensure a perfect fit for everything you plan to vacuum seal. This can be achieved by buying rolls of vacuum seal material and cutting them down to the exact size you need. Plastic vacuum seal rolls are not typically device specific, so make sure you shop around for the best deal. I got these from Kmart and they're typically around $12 to $15 and you get 2 in a pack. You can also get them from online retailers such as Amazon. Now, a little bonus tip I have is you can use one bag to seal 2 items. So you'll want to heat seal the middle of the bag instead of the tip when you're using a vacuum seal roll like this. Now that you have the seal in the middle, you essentially have 2 different bags you can store items. So if you use this roll and you cut it down to the size you need, you can now put meat in one section and then spices or dry rubs or vegetables if you're doing that in the other, and then both vacuum seal them as you would normally. I like to do this with sausages when I go camping. I like to put the sausages in the larger section of the bag I've made, and then on the second side I like to put in onions if I'm going to put them on the grill as well. I plan to make another video going on in depth on some of the techniques I use to make custom sized bags. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and to see them when they come out. I'm also going to do an in-depth review of the different types of bags available on the market and which one is best. And my 8th tip is to seal delicate items using the manual mode on your machine. For fragile foods like berries, you can protect their shape and texture by controlling the vacuum sealer using the manual mode. By gently pulsating the machine, you can avoid squishing the delicate foods and have better control over the vacuum sealing process. This works great in conjunction with flash freezing to preserve berries in particular, but you can also do this on other soft foods such as cheeses and delicate meats such as fish. Okay, my 9th tip is flat freezing for easy storage. For foods like mince, you can use a rolling pin once the bag has been sealed to flatten out the bag. Once it's been sealed, lay the bags flat in the freezer, and then after they're frozen, you can stack them upright like books to save space, and it makes them easy to find. This is particularly helpful if you have a chest freezer to improve visibility of what you have stored. The increased surface area of the bag also helps speed up the thawing process and will defrost quickly when placed in room temperature water. I like to take my mince out of the freezer about 30 minutes before I plan to cook, and I just put it in the bottom of my sink with about 2 inches of water. Okay, I want to start by labeling the bags. So this is beef mince. You can also write how many serves and the date that you are doing it. Okay, I'll just grab some of this beef. So this was from my local butcher shop. I've already used some, but I'm just going to seal the rest for longer term storage. So I like to get the top of the bag and I like to peel back around the edges. This just helps keep the outside of it clean for when I go to vacuum seal it later. So I'll do this with both bags before I start. And now I'll put in the serves of mince. So my hands have been washed before you yell at me in the comments. So we'll feed back into the bag. Okay, I'll go put this tray away and clean my hands and I'll come back. Okay, so I'm back, my hands are clean, and I'm going to pull the tops around like so, and I'm going to put it inside the vacuum sealer and just run it on the normal vacuum seal mode. So it's drawn all the air out, and now it's just finishing the seal. And once it's done, I'll pull it off and I'll put this to the side. Now I'll repeat for the remainder of my beef. Okay, now that's done, I'll move the seal out of the way. I'll grab myself a rolling pin and I'll show you how to flatten it. Okay, now I'm going to roll it out with this rolling pin. Now you can find it a little bit hard to start, but you usually get it all the way through. So because there's no air in the bag, you'll find it freezes out really nice. And I find this works really well with pet mints as well, especially if you're feeding your dogs like raw chicken or a raw food diet. So that is pretty flat now. Okay, and I'll repeat it for the next one. Okay, now that you have your 2 flat packs of mints, you can stack them and then put them in the freezer. So this is a lot more space conscious, especially if you have a small freezer like myself. Okay, tip number 10 is to use ice cube trays for liquids. For liquids like stews or purees, make sure to freeze them first in an ice cube tray. This makes it a lot easier to handle instead of using liquids inside vacuum seal bags. Frozen, you can vacuum seal the cubes for perfectly portioned servings that are easy to store and use. I prefer to use a handheld vacuum sealer for this, as the bags are more easily resealable when you only want to use 1 or 2 portions at a time. So I've done a review on this $15 handheld vacuum sealer from Aldi. It works great for this particular purpose, so make sure to check that out as well. My 11th tip is using your vacuum sealer to heat seal packages closed. If you're not using vacuum sealing bags, you can use the heat sealer on the machine to close store-bought bags tightly. This helps prevent freezer burn if you're using it on a bag of hash browns, or it extends the freshness of other frozen foods if you get frozen bags of berries. You can also use the heat sealer to reseal bags of chips if you have more self-control than me and don't finish the bag in one go. I'll demonstrate now with this bag of twisties. So it's been opened. You want to remove as much air as you can out of the bag without crushing the chips, and then you just want to use this heat sealing element here. So I like to do it as close to the top as possible, just so that way I can keep doing this if I decide I need to keep sealing the bag. So when doing this, you don't want to use any of the vacuum sealing. It won't work in this particular bag because it doesn't have the same channels that the normal vacuum seal bags do. So you'll just want to press seal, and then that heating element will heat up and it will reseal the bag of chips. Okay, it's done, and we'll have a quick look. As you can see, it's done a nice seal along the top there, similar to like it was in the factory, and no air is in there now. It's sealed once again, and now I can chuck it in my cupboard and it's good to go. I find this lasts a lot longer than using a peg or a chip clip. Okay, so there you have it. That was my 11 beginner tips for vacuum sealing. So if you made it this far, I hope you found at least one of these sealing tips helpful. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your favorite vacuum sealing tips for beginners in the comments below. If you think I've missed something important, let me know and I'll make sure to include it in another future video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.